I'll never forget the night my wife looked me straight in the eyes and said, I can't bear you anymore. Asterisk. Her words didn't come in anger, not even in the heat of an argument. They were cold, steady, and final, like a door slamming shut. I froze, unable to breathe. We had been married for 7 years, and though things had been rocky lately, I never imagined she truly felt that way. I thought maybe we just needed space, or maybe counseling. But the way she said it left no room for doubt. That night, I packed a small bag, left my phone on the kitchen counter, and simply disappeared. I didn't leave a note, didn't explain myself. I just vanished into the quiet of the night, driving until the city lights faded in my rearview mirror. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was that if she couldn't stand me anymore, maybe the best thing I could do was to be gone. But what happened in the days that followed would leave me shaken in ways I never expected. The first few days away felt like a blur. I checked into a cheap roadside motel miles from home, where no one knew me and no one asked questions. For the first time in years, I sat in silence with nothing but my thoughts, no arguments, no cold shoulders, no judgmental stares. But the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. I kept hearing her voice replaying in my head, I can't bear you anymore. Each time, it cut deeper. I tried convincing myself I had done the right thing by leaving, maybe she would finally be happy without me. Maybe I had freed her. Still, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more to her words than what she had said. On the third night, as I sat outside staring at the dark sky, I wondered if anyone even noticed I was gone. My phone was still back at the house, switched off on the counter. No calls, no messages could reach me. And then, something strange happened. As I was buying a cup of coffee at a gas station, I overheard two strangers talking. They mentioned a missing man whose wife had reported him gone. My chest tightened instantly. Could that be me? Had she actually reported me missing? I wasn't sure if I should feel relieved, or terrified. Curiosity burned inside me, so I picked up a newspaper at the counter and flipped through it with shaking hands. My heart stopped when I saw my own photo staring back at me under the headline, local man missing, wife desperate for answers. I couldn't believe it. The same woman who told me she couldn't bear me anymore was now pleading for my return. The article quoted her saying things like, I just want him safe. I don't know where he went, and I'm scared something happened. I sat in my car with the paper in my lap, stunned. None of it made sense. Had I misheard her that night? Or was this just some twisted act to protect herself from suspicion? The thought of going back crossed my mind, but fear kept me frozen. If she truly meant what she said to me that night, what would happen if I showed up at the door? Would she slam it in my face again? And then another thought hit me, if she was putting on an act publicly, maybe there was something she was hiding. Something I wasn't supposed to find out. I decided right then that before I went back, I needed answers. The next morning, I drove back toward our town, but I didn't go home. Instead, I parked a few blocks away from our house, hidden behind a line of old maple trees. From there, I could see the familiar windows, the porch light, the front yard where I had once planted flowers for her. My chest tightened as I watched. Within an hour, I saw her step outside. She looked exhausted, her hair tied back messily, her clothes wrinkled. She stood on the porch, staring at her phone as if waiting for a message that would never come. Then something happened that made my blood run cold. A man I didn't recognize pulled up in a sleek black car. She rushed down the steps to meet him, and to my shock, she hugged him. Not a friendly hug, it was too close, too familiar. I sank down in my seat, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Was this why she had told me she couldn't bear me anymore? Had she already moved on? The man whispered something in her ear, and she laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard from her in months. My world tilted. Maybe I hadn't misheard her words after all. Maybe disappearing wasn't just my choice, maybe it was exactly what she wanted. But if that was true, then why report me missing? Why pretend to care? The questions piled up, and I knew I couldn't just walk away. I had to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it was. I stayed hidden in my car, my heart pounding like a drum as I watched them together. They went back inside, closing the door behind them. My mind raced with possibilities. Was this man just a friend, or was he the reason she had pushed me away? For hours I sat there, wrestling with what to do. A part of me wanted to storm in, demand answers, expose her lies. But another part of me whispered caution. If I revealed myself too soon, I'd lose the chance to find out what was really going on behind those walls. As evening fell, I finally saw the man leave. He kissed her cheek before stepping into his car and driving off. That tiny gesture confirmed my worst fear: he wasn't just a friend. But something didn't add up. If she truly wanted me gone so she could be with him, why put on a show in the media? Why act like the heartbroken wife? I needed clarity. So I made a choice. That night, under the cover of darkness, I crept back to the house I once called home. I knew every corner, every creak in the floorboards, every window that didn't lock properly. I slipped into the backyard and crouched near the kitchen window. The lights were on inside. My wife was on the phone, pacing nervously. Her words froze me where I knelt. She said, "He's gone. But what if he comes back and finds out everything?" Everything. My pulse quickened. What secret was she so desperate to keep hidden? I pressed myself closer to the window, straining to hear. My wife's voice trembled as she continued her call. I told him I couldn't bear him anymore, it was the only way to make him leave. But now the police keep asking questions, and the neighbors are watching. If he comes back, it'll ruin everything. My stomach churned. She had wanted me gone. Those words weren't a slip of the tongue, they were calculated. But why? What was she protecting? Then her tone shifted, colder, sharper. Don't worry, as long as he stays missing, no one will ever know about us. No one will know about the money. I nearly stumbled backward. Money, what money? It felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. Not only was she seeing another man, but there was some hidden scheme tied to money that I knew nothing about. My marriage wasn't just crumbling from neglect, it had been built on secrets I had never suspected. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding so loudly I feared she might hear it. I had left because I thought she didn't love me anymore. But now I realized something far darker: my disappearance wasn't just convenient for her, it was necessary. And suddenly, I wasn't just a heartbroken husband. I was a threat to her plan. I slipped back into the shadows, every nerve in my body on fire. Her words rang in my ears: no one will ever know about the money. Money. Betrayal. A secret life with another man. How long had this been going on right under my nose? I walked through the dark streets until I reached my car, my mind spiraling. For years I had blamed myself for the cracks in our marriage: maybe I worked too much, maybe I wasn't attentive enough, maybe I wasn't the husband she wanted. But now, staring at the pieces of this puzzle, I realized I had been nothing but a pawn in whatever scheme she was running. Still, a part of me hesitated. What if I confronted her and she twisted everything? She could easily play the victim again, just like she had for the press. No one would believe the man who had disappeared without a word. I needed proof. Something undeniable. The next day, I returned to town, blending in like a ghost. I lingered near our street, watching quietly. By mid-afternoon, the same sleek black car returned. The man walked in confidently, like he belonged there. This time, I didn't just watch. I followed him after he left. He drove across town and stopped at a bank. I stayed a safe distance back, watching as he went inside carrying a thick envelope. When he came out, he looked around nervously before tucking a receipt into his jacket pocket. That was my chance. I didn't know what I would find, but I knew one thing: if I wanted the truth, I'd have to get closer, much closer. I waited until the man drove off before stepping toward the bank. My hands shook as I pushed through the glass doors, trying to look casual. I had no account there, no reason to be inside, but I needed answers. I approached a teller and asked an innocent question about opening an account, buying time as I glanced around. That's when I spotted him again through the glass office window, the man who had just been with my wife. He was sitting with a bank manager, sliding that thick envelope across the desk. The manager opened it. Even from where I stood, I caught the glimpse of crisp stacks of cash. My pulse spiked. I leaned closer to hear, pretending to fill out a form. Their voices were muffled, but I caught fragments. Can't leave a paper trail. She said he's out of the picture now. Asterisk, as soon as it clears, we're free. Asterisk. It was like being punched in the chest. She said he's out of the picture now, that was me. They weren't just hiding money, they were planning a future without me in it. I stumbled out of the bank, my head spinning. Everything was clear now. My wife's cold words, her missing act for the media, her secret lover, it was all part of a plan. They wanted me gone, forgotten, erased. But they had made one mistake. I wasn't gone. And I wasn't about to stay silent. That night, I sat in my car in a deserted parking lot, piecing everything together. My wife hadn't just pushed me away because of a failing marriage, she and that man were running something shady. The money, the secrecy, the way she played the grieving wife for the press, it was all an act. But if I walked straight to the police without proof, what would happen? They'd say I abandoned her, then came back with wild accusations out of spite. She had already painted herself as the desperate wife. No one would take my word over hers. I needed evidence. The next morning, I drove back to the neighborhood, but this time I wasn't watching the house, I was watching him. I parked near his car and waited. Hours later, he arrived at her place, stayed for a while, then left again. Just like before, he carried another envelope. I tailed him carefully, my heart thudding with every turn. He drove not to the bank this time, but to a storage unit on the edge of town. He entered through the gate with a key code, and when the steel door rattled open, I caught a glimpse inside before it closed. Stacks of boxes. Metal cases. Something big. I snapped a few quick photos from my phone, grainy, but enough to show him moving cash and locking it away. And as the door slammed shut, a chilling realization hit me: this wasn't just about money. This was bigger. Dangerous. Maybe even illegal. And I was now the one person who knew the truth. I sat in my car gripping the phone, staring at the blurry photos I had taken. My gut screamed that this was no harmless secret savings stash. Whatever they were hiding in that storage unit was connected to the money, and to why she wanted me gone. For hours I debated my next move. Going straight to the police still felt risky. What if she spun it into a story of me being unstable, jealous, stalking her after leaving? No, I needed undeniable proof. That night, under cover of darkness, I returned to the storage facility. I parked a block away, heart hammering as I climbed the fence. My palms were slick with sweat, but adrenaline pushed me forward. Unit 47. I remembered the number clearly. I crept up to the steel door and crouched, searching for weaknesses. The lock was heavy-duty, but the frame had a slight gap. I slid a thin piece of metal in and fiddled until, click, the lock gave way. I pulled the door up just enough to slip inside. The dim light from my phone illuminated rows of boxes stacked high, cases labeled with strange codes, and envelopes spilling with cash. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a side fling with hidden money, it looked like organized crime. And then I froze. On top of one of the boxes lay a document with my name on it. It was a life insurance policy. Worth more than I had ever imagined. My breath caught in my throat as the truth slammed into me. I wasn't just inconvenient to her anymore. I was worth more gone than alive. My hands shook as I held that document. The numbers printed on it blurred as panic took over. This wasn't about a failing marriage, or even about her new lover. My wife had been planning my disappearance all along, because to her, I was a payday. I stuffed the paper back exactly where I'd found it and snapped a quick photo. My phone trembled in my grip as I captured the evidence. That was the proof I needed. But just as I turned to leave, headlights swept across the narrow gap under the storage door. My stomach dropped. A car had pulled up outside. I ducked behind the boxes, holding my breath as I heard voices. The steel door rattled open, and in walked the man with the black car, and my wife. "We need to move it soon," he muttered, his tone sharp. The longer he's gone, the riskier it gets. People are asking questions. My wife sighed, her voice low but firm. Don't worry. He's not coming back. He never does. And once the payout clears, we'll be free. The air turned ice cold around me. They weren't just preparing for my absence. They were already speaking of me like I was dead. I crouched lower, every nerve screaming to run, but one wrong move and they'd know I was there. And in that suffocating silence, I realized something chilling: they hadn't just wanted me to disappear. They might have been planning to make sure I never returned. I pressed my back against the cold metal wall, forcing myself to breathe as quietly as possible. My wife and the man moved deeper into the unit, rustling through boxes, counting cash. Every second they stayed, the tighter my chest became. "We'll transfer the rest tomorrow," the man said. By next week, this will all be cleaned out. My wife's voice wavered slightly, but her words stabbed me. Good. Once that's done, there's nothing tying me to him anymore. Nothing tying her to me. She spoke like I was already buried in the ground. I clenched my fists, torn between rage and fear. Part of me wanted to leap out, scream at her, demand answers. But another part knew if they found me here, it might truly be the end. When they finally left, the screech of the steel door rolling down echoed like thunder in my ears. I waited, counting the seconds until their car drove off into the night. Only then did I slip out, my legs shaking so badly I almost collapsed against my car. I had the photos, I had the evidence, but I also had a terrifying truth: my wife, the woman I once trusted with my life, was planning to erase me permanently. As I gripped the steering wheel, one thought crystallized in my mind. I couldn't just run anymore. I had to fight back, before they finished their plan. I drove through the night with my phone clutched tight in my hand, replaying every photo, every detail. The life insurance policy, the cash, their whispered words, it was all there. Enough to prove I wasn't crazy. Enough to show the world who they really were. But fear lingered. If I went to the police now, would they act fast enough? Or would she and her partner catch wind of it and strike first? After all, to them, I was just a signature away from a fortune. By dawn, I made my decision. I wouldn't just drop this in the police's lap. I would set a trap, one they couldn't escape. That afternoon, I returned to the motel where I'd been hiding. Using a borrowed laptop from the front desk clerk, I drafted an anonymous email to the police. I attached the photos of the storage unit, the cash, and most importantly, the insurance document with my name on it. But I didn't stop there. I set the email on a timed release: if anything happened to me, it would automatically send. Then I made a second move. I called my wife from a payphone. For the first time since disappearing, I let her hear my voice. "It's me," I said, my voice steady. I know everything. Asterisk. The line went dead silent. Then, a sharp intake of breath. Asterisk, where are you? Asterisk, she whispered. I didn't answer. I just let the weight of my words hang there before slamming the receiver down. For the first time, she knew I wasn't gone. And she knew I was watching. The payphone still echoed in my ears as I stepped back into the night. For once, I felt the power shift. She was the one scrambling now, not me. But I also knew what I had just done was dangerous. If she and her partner thought I was alive and aware of their scheme, they might panic. And panicked people make reckless moves. That evening, I parked my car across from our house again, hidden under the shadow of trees. I wanted to see her reaction. It didn't take long. My wife burst out the front door, pacing the porch with her phone pressed to her ear. She looked frantic, glancing up and down the street as if expecting me to appear. Minutes later, the black car screeched to a stop, and the man jumped out. They argued in harsh whispers, their voices carrying through the still night. Asterisk, I told you he was gone. Asterisk, she hissed. And I told you not to underestimate him, the man snapped back. Asterisk, if he's alive, he's a problem. Asterisk. I watched as he leaned close, his voice dropping lower. Asterisk, then we'll just have to make sure he disappears for good this time. Asterisk. My blood ran cold. They weren't just talking about money anymore, they were talking about eliminating me. I ducked lower in my seat, gripping my phone. The timer on my email was set, but I wasn't sure if that alone would save me. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just a betrayed husband caught in a scheme. I was prey. And the hunters had just decided to finish their hunt. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. They were planning to strike, and if I didn't act first, I might never get another chance. So I set my own trap. The next day, I arranged a meeting. Using another payphone, I called my wife again. My voice was calm, steady. Asterisk, if you want to see me, meet me tonight. Just you. No excuses. Asterisk, then I hung up before she could respond. That night, I waited in a public park under the bright glow of street lamps. A place with people around, witnesses. When she arrived, her face was pale, her eyes darting nervously. You're alive, she whispered, almost like it was an accusation. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. The storage unit, the money, the insurance policy. Her mask cracked instantly. She staggered back, shaking her head. You don't understand. But before she could spin another lie, red and blue lights flashed across the park. Police cruisers rolled up, tires screeching. The timed email had sent earlier that evening, and the evidence was already in their hands. Her lover was arrested at the storage unit that same night, caught red-handed trying to move the cash. My wife? She was taken in too, her pleas drowned out by the sound of handcuffs snapping shut. As for me, I stood there in the chaos, hollow but free. The woman I once trusted with my life had betrayed me for money, but in the end, her greed destroyed her. I had disappeared once because of her words. But this time, it was her world that vanished, and mine that finally began again.